what you hearing. It's what you hearing. Listen. It's what you hearing. Listen. It's what you hearing.
Ladies and gentlemen.
X gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real.
Mr. Cropper here. We're gonna talk just for a few minutes about some comments here. Now I suspect I'll be able to get back to doing some pretty regular long videos eventually, but I go into coughing fits pretty quick. I got some end of the cold season cold thing or something like that. It's almost done though. We've got these comments on the video Dark Matter Woo Woo. Now, first of all, I just want to set the story straight about this electric universe plasma cosmology stuff. Maybe there are people out there who thinks it's going to replace all scientific knowledge, but I'm not of that view. I think that there are two areas particularly. There's NASA tried to land on a comet and it fried their thing because the comet was electrically charged. That was weird. NASA tried to generate electricity by dragging a long cord through space, and it generated so much electricity it melted the cord. So those two things, there's electricity out there. The universe full of electricity. All right. Why is the surface of the sun hotter than the interior? Why do galaxies rotate according to something besides gravity? What else besides gravity is out there? Now you guys say it is gravity, it's just something invisible that we can't detect, and I mean that is so stupid I can't believe that anybody buys it, but whatever. Now, FF is having some problems with this. I'm telling him that positivism is a disaster, and he says, I don't think science needs to posit that true knowledge is not possible. They don't have to posit that it's not possible, okay? They just accept that as one of their, that is their axiom, that true knowledge is not possible, okay? As far as I'm aware, it posits the opposite, that true knowledge is possible, through observation and deduction. No, it does not seem to posit that. It does not seem to posit that, because you can come to conclusions and they will reject them if it does not follow their dogma, their religion. In the subatomic field, the subatomic realm of science has been wrecked by these idiots. Now, some of it's being, the Copenhagen school and stuff's being rejected over time, but they are positivists, and they will take only observations. Now, you might say observations are the base of reality. I'd say that's true. Observations are the only thing that we know, and we have to induce from there. Observations are the base of our knowledge. I wouldn't say they're the only thing we know. That's actually what the positivists say, that observations are the only thing we know. Now, the positivists get into trouble when they say all we know is the observations, so we can just make a system over here, and as long as the system says the same thing that reality says, then the system is correct. Okay? That's their belief. So, the positivists are the type of people who made epicycles in ancient Egypt, in ancient Greece, long after ancient Egypt fell apart. In ancient Greece, in Alexandria, down in Egypt, Ptolemy made epicycles. And they correctly identified when the stars and so on would come up, constellations would come up, or whatever, what time you were here and there, and tables and stuff. And these epicycles could be used to make predictions, and tables of predictions for these were published yearly for sailing almanacs and sailors out on the seas to know when things were happening in the skies. Okay? That's how accurate these were. They were actually used to sail boats around with. Okay? And they were based on the Earth holding still. The epicycles of Ptolemy, because the Greeks thought that the Earth was holding still. I know that there were some geometers in ancient Greece who said the Earth was moving and the sun was actually enormous, and they said the Earth is a tiny speck moving around the sun. But Greeks regarded that as esoteric theoretical nonsense or esoteric theory. It was just theory. And as a matter of fact, clearly we are standing here on the planet, and as a matter of fact, the sun does go around us every day. So, they just rejected that outright, even though some ancient Greeks did know it. However, the Epicycles were their practical way of holding the Earth still and being able to make predictions about what was going on in the sun, in the heavens. Okay? Positivists are going to be okay with that. They're going to say that's all we can do is build a system that explains things accurately. All right? Now, how accurate were these? I've already said that they used them to sail their boats about. Here's how accurate Ptolemy's from 300 BC. Here's how accurate they were. They were still in use. Now, was he 300? He might have been more like 100 BC or something. Whenever he was, they were still in use 1300 AD when Copernicus published his theory on his deathbed. He died and his theory was published that said the Earth is actually moving. Now, how long did it take people to come up with new observations and new almanacs and new tables? How long did it take them to correct the old epicycles now that they had a correct theory of what was actually going on in the heavens? More than 100 years. Okay? For more than 100 years. After Copernicus corrected the Earth-centered and said it's a sun-centered solar system, for more than 100 years, the timetables produced by the epicycle people were more accurate than the theoretically correct models. We're in that situation with quantum mechanics. The ability for them to predict, not based on knowledge, but just based on a buildup of statistics, is extremely high. Very, very reliable, right? They know that things are going to happen and when without knowing why. Okay? So we're in that situation with quantum mechanics. Pardon me. Same situation we had backed ourselves into with epicycles. Now, dark matter is just pushing ourselves into a corner with gravity. You know, the solar system rotates by gravity. The galaxy has to rotate by gravity. So then we take a picture of it. Galaxies rotating. Wait, they don't rotate by gravity. Well, actually, there's a donut of invisible and undetectable gravity around the outside that makes it rotate by gravity. It still rotates by gravity. Okay? That is stupid. There's no data for that. There's no evidence of that. Now, I'm not saying that there's necessarily evidence that electricity is the cause, but when you shoot two oppositely charged particles together in a vacuum, they join together. Now that's off of some documentary. I'm going to keep looking for the footage of that because I saw it on a damn documentary about electricity. All right, and the speed at which they spiral together is identical to the speed that the method at which galaxies spiral. All right, it's an electrical phenomenon. So I'll keep looking for that. If I find it, I'll put it up. Now you guys keep putting up stuff about dark matter, and it doesn't prove dark matter, does it? It just proves that we need some explanation for why the galaxy is not rotating in a gravitational manner. And then you find this little diffuse galaxy with hardly anything in it, and it behaves differently. Well, surprise. Alright, I don't know what the cause of the rotation of galaxies is, but it seems to be an electrical phenomenon because things are moving around a hell of a lot faster than they had ought to be, if gravity was the actual case, as far as we know. Alright, FF. That's what Okay, so I said just build a system that matches reality. Why not figure out reality? And he says because that wouldn't be objective. For him, being objective is to build a system that matches reality. Because you can't figure out reality, you're cut off from it. All you can know is the appearances, right? So he's a positivist, and he wants to just make an accurate prediction of reality. Just make an accurate system that represents reality. He would have the epicycles, and he would hold the epicycles up, especially after Copernicus came along and said the Earth's actually moving. FF would come over and say, no, look here, these epicycles predict perfectly when the sun is going to come up tomorrow or when a given constellation is going to come up. We don't have any need at all for your fancy theory that the sun is actually holding still. Because our epicycles are perfectly accurate and predict reality perfectly. All right, well, if that's the situation we want to be in, fine. I would rather discuss what reality is actually doing, even if we then have to revamp our theories and figure out what's really going on. Like, you guys have put a lot of work into string theory. How many of you guys are into string theory? Raise your hand if you're into string theory.